Good evening and welcome to the Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. I'm Madhavdas G. A massive controversy has emerged from the United States with the Department of Government Efficiency cancelling a grant of $21 million to India. In fact, this is about 182 crore rupees, I beg your pardon, and this was reportedly for strengthening the election process here in India or increasing voter turnout. Now, very clearly, the Elon Musk-led DOGE did not name any Indian body or agency which actually received that funding, just that was the money being spent by the USAID for this process here in India. Of course, USAID has been in many a controversy in recent days, and of course, the causes for which USAID is spending have been questioned by many in the United States and also several here in India. But this is for the first time that there is any kind of interference as far as a political process that is being alleged. Listen in.
पीछे से सपोर्ट आ रही है वो CEPPS कंसोर्टियम फॉर इलेक्शन पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेस इलेक्शन एंड पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेस स्ट्रेंथनिंग नामक संस्था से आ रही है, जो जॉर्ज सोरेस के ओपन सोसाइटी फाउंडेशन के साथ उसके संबंध हैं, जिसने $500 million भारत में इन्वेस्ट किए एक माध्यम से, यूएसएड इत्यादि के माध्यम से, और इसके बाद से $3-3.5 लाख प्रतिवर्ष भारत में आते जा रहे थे.
This shocking revelation that organizations like USAID were funneling crores of rupees to organizations in India just confirms that all of these protests that we were seeing over the last several years were foreign funded. They were being instigated and puppet mastered from across the border.
I doubt this money is coming to Bharatiya Janata Party, because we have seen in Delhi election openly most of the candidates of Bharatiya Janata Party, they were distributing money openly to the voters. So this money was coming from where? It is the matter of investigation. It should be properly investigated. Then truth will come out, and I am sure BJP may be involved.
All right, let's now go across to Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal for more on this. Sanjeev Sanyal, many thanks for joining us on the show. First of all, let me begin by asking you, what do you make of the allegation that there was a huge amount of money coming out from USAID? You've called it the biggest scam in human history. There are those, of course, who argue that USAID also funds several programs related to health, related to education, related to disaster management. Can we say that all of these programs also are illegitimate?
Well, maybe all of it is not, and I'm sure they did quite a lot of good things as well. But let me say that it was a cover for doing many other things that were clearly legitimate. I mean, the latest finding, for example, that has come out as an unintended consequence of US DOGE efforts is that they were spending $21 million to improve voter participation in India. Why did they need to do that? Or improve fiscal federalism in Nepal? I mean, clearly things that have nothing to do with US interests or US taxpayers. Clearly there are some things that we need to ask questions about, and even many of the things that may seem legitimate, we need to begin to questioning, including, for example, their interest in our health data systems.
And you've also tweeted, Mr. Sanyal, saying you would love to find out who spent that $21 million for enhancing voter turnout in India. The big question is, do we have any evidence before us that that money was actually misused or misspent in any manner?
One part of it is just asking for transparency. But a lot of the things I have been writing for years suggesting that many of these agencies do things that are clearly not kosher. So let me give you some examples and then you'll understand. So you may have noticed, for example, that in the last few years, there's been a sudden spike in large number of global indices of all kinds. Have you noticed this? Global Democracy Index, Global Media Freedom Index, Global Happiness Index, Global something other index. And in all of them, India does sort of oddly badly. I mean, we are not even in the top 100 democracies in the world. Evidently, our media is not even as free as that in Afghanistan. All kinds of things have come up. Now, obviously, this is agenda-driven. Now, who funds all of these indices and where do they come from and why should we care? So I did some research into it, and it was quite clear that just a handful of donor agencies fund all these indices. usaID is one of them, but there are others. For example, Soros's Open Society, but many others are there also. Not many others, it's the same small group, but they are funding a whole bunch of these. I mean, Freedom House, all these guys, varieties of Democracy Institute in Sweden, RFP, the Reporter, Sons Frontier, all of these guys are funded by the same 3-4 agencies, which are all linked clearly. And all of them seem to drive an agenda. Now, what is that agenda? The point is they are running global narratives in a particular way. It has real life implications because these feed into investment decisions, they feed into sovereign ratings, they feed into the way AI is being trained, and in this way they are basically creating a global narrative of a particular kind. Now, if a global aid agency with clear links to intelligence agencies and so on is going around funding and seeding this kind of global narrative building, then surely we in India have a right to question this. And this is the stuff that is happening outside India. There is a lot of interesting things they do inside India also which can be questioned.
Also, Mr. Sanyal, Mr. S.Y. Qureshi has clarified that, there was no money that was spent as far as, enhancing voter education here in India. There was a memorandum of understanding, but that's about it, is the statement coming in from Mr. S.Y. Qureshi. Do you feel that there's scope for some kind of a clarification or correction, or, there could have been possibly a misinterpretation of what has been stated?
Well, somebody should look into this. I mean, what did the 21 million go to? Somebody should find out and tell us who got it, what did they do? I mean, I can't comment without knowing. I'm just telling you that prima facie, we should be suspicious. Because while I am not working on voter turnout, I do work in other areas where I have found, in whether it's in these global indices or in medical data and some other things also, where clearly usaID has played a very nefarious role. And I've written about it. It's not some new secret that has pumped up. And a result of this is, for example, that now NHFS for the first time that is now being conducted is being done purely by the Ministry of Health. The usaID guys have been pushed out.
Thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal. Let's quickly take this across to our guest. Or joining us, we have Charu Pragya, BJP spokesperson. Shekhar Iyer is a senior journalist joining us. With us also is Lokesh Jindal, political analyst. Renu Mittal is senior journalist with us on the panel. Let me start with you first. Charu Pragya, now, while the concerns are certainly legitimate that if there is $21 million coming in to enhance voter participation here in India, certainly, of course, serious questions about whether that MOU signed by the Election Commission in 2012 has anything to do with it. But the larger question is there any proof of the direct use of those funds? Which agency did it go to? Was it to the Election Commission, some NGO or some other advocacy group? At the moment, the details aren't quite clear, are they?
Absolutely, Madhav, and that is worrisome, isn't it? Because for sure, this amount of money has been invested into India. The Election Commission has not received it. Time and time again, we found links of the Biden administration getting money in various ways or getting guidance in various ways from George Soros, and all this meddling was done in India to pull India down. Now, that we have discussed again and again. Maybe some of this money went to advocacy groups, maybe some of this money went to other NGOs. Our government has done its utmost best to cut off foreign fundings to sketchy NGOs that were not reliable. We have many times discussed how FCRA to unknown NGOs or suspect NGOs has been cut down, and a very strong stand has been taken by the government of India over this. My point is, what exactly was this funding happening for? Yes, meddling has happened. It was India in the last couple of years, and these protests have cost India dearly in terms of money, in terms of convenience, in terms of perception. Was it funding yatras of some tall political leaders who went across the length and breadth of this country? So all these things we do need an answer to. And the funny thing is, the one who walks around with the constitution in his hand turns out to be the one who puts it most in danger. turns out to be the one who always invites foreign interference, foreign money, foreign, advice on issues which are entirely sovereign.
Okay, Lokesh, they'll respond to that. The person who raises questions about democracy in India is the one under whose regime democracy is actually being threatened. That's the line that the BJP is taking. Please respond to that.
Well, former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi has already denied all these forms of allegations. He has clearly stated that there was an agreement that was signed on 17th of May 2012 with the International Foundation for Electoral System, which is a sister concern for CEPPS. The objective was that Election Commission was required to share its experience training across the world. Now, when I talk about this amount, 160 or 170 crore, in Indian election scenario, this is too meager an amount, I would say. It is too meager of an amount to influence any of the electoral outcome. That is an amount probably any industrialist would willfully
Lokesh, simple question. Where did the money go? Do you know that?
You talk about electoral.
Lokesh, simple question. Where did the money go?
What about electoral?
Let's say it didn't go to the election commission. Where did the 21 million that is sent from USA to India, where did it go?
The more than 5,000 crore electoral bonds, which might have impacted the electoral outcome more, is not being questioned.
Sir, I am not disputing that for a moment. I am not disputing that for the moment. But unfortunately, electoral bonds have been taken by parties across both sides of the divide, whether it's the treasury benches or the opposition. My simple question to you is, where did this 182 crore rupees go?
That is for the center to investigate and determine and understand, because as it was a funding from outside, it would have very much come within the purview of especially the Home Ministry. And they have all the leads to track into as to how this money was utilized. And if you talk about Election Commission of India, it's a fairly autonomous body.
I want Shekhar Iyer to respond to that. Shekhar Iyer, you agree with Lokesh Jindal when he says it is for the centre to tell us, because if it has come through FCRA, the MHA would know about it. If it's through some other sources, if it's come from our MEA would perhaps know about it. Whatever it is the government that has to respond as to how this money came and who it went to.
No, definitely this needs investigation, because $21 million, which today the United States considers is a wasteful expenditure. I mean, this is not a small amount to whom did it, and you can see, even that statement of objectives, it is funded through organizations like Foundation for Electoral Systems, Republican Institute, National Democratic Institute, and all those programs have very euphemistically worded. And I'm sure, what Qureshi says, definitely no funds would have come to Election Commission. Because Election Commission is the government of India. I mean, this is a constitutional body. They have their own funds to promote voter participation. They have been doing for a long time. So I don't think Qureshi's denial, is stating the obvious. I mean, nowhere Election Commission would have been involved in something where it would take funds from USAID. I don't think so. But the question is, because this is a euphemism, increasing voters' participation. And so who have been funded? Why have they been funded? And this is not new, Madhav. The United States has been involved in trying to influence, interfere with, political system, political economy, in governments all over the world. But interestingly, the trend that we are seeing is a lot of those American organizations and corporate bodies have been funding bodies who are supposed to be opposed to US capitalism, who have a more of a pro-left or a left radical approach. They have received money, so long as they are opposed to whichever establishment that the deep state in America thinks will have to be toppled.
Right.
So these are things, this requires definitely, and I am sure government of India cannot just sleep over this disclosures that are coming.
Let me bring in Renu Mittal on that note. Renu Mittal, of course, the government needs to investigate this. That's pretty much the view across the board. But the big question is that where has that 182 crores gone? Of course, in the larger picture, it may seem like a smaller amount, but it's, I mean, close to 200 crores. It's a significant chunk of money. Which body has received it? It's possible that if not the Election Commission, there are NGOs, advocacy groups, etc., working in the field of elections. Perhaps some of those bodies may have received these funds. Shouldn't we be finding out?
I think, Madhav, you have got hold of the wrong end of the question. I think the real question is, Begani Shadi mein Abdullah Diwana. The fact is that the government of the United States of America needs to answer these questions. There is a war on. He is trying to fix Mr. Biden's regime. And Mr. Biden is not speaking at the moment. So Mr. Trump is doing everything he can to overturn whatever the Biden regime was doing, whether it was funding people across the world or whatever it was. Now they need to give the documents. Why is the BJP going all out on a limb to attack? Right from the PM's economic advisor, Mr. Sanyal. He is also putting his foot into it. Why? What have you got to do with it? This is a problem of another country. They have funded who? They have to tell us. And why are we fighting? This is the government of India. Why are we targeting the BJP or BJP targeting Congress or what without any proof on just innuendos? I mean, what is
let me come in on that. Can I just come in on that, Renu Mittal? See, irrespective, one second, Renu Mittal, just give me 10 seconds. Irrespective of if the money came during the Congress regime or the BJP regime, if the money has come in for purposes that, construe elections, then we certainly need a clarification. And the point that Mr. Sanyal is making is that this is not the first time that USAID, which is, health, education, several such areas where it is purportedly working, also slips in funds for alleged political purposes. And that's the point I think that Mr. Sanyal was trying to make. Respond to that, Renu Mittal.
Mr. Madhavan, please listen to me. Mr. Sanyal is part of the government. Should he not be pointing his questions at Elon Musk or at Trump or whatever? The PM has just been there. The PM, there is a foreign minister. There is an entire government in India. Is it a lame duck government? No, it's a functioning government. And a very, I must say, well-functioning government. So they need to take up these issues with them and say, you are throwing all kinds of innuendos at us. Why don't you clarify and give us documents on what exactly is going on? The fact is that nobody wants the truth. Because the BJP needs to do this jalebi talk to distract attention from other issues. Don't discuss important things in India.
Quick response. Charu Pragya, quick response. Charu Pragya, 30 seconds. 30 seconds to Charu Pragya. Quick response, please.
What an irresponsible statement by someone who's so senior. How irresponsible. We are, of course, concerned about foreign interference in Indian elections. And you don't realize these are issues which are humongous because Indian government is working for the Indian population. If there is foreign money which is coming in, which is, paying for voter suppression, for example, where people are shouting day in and day out and saying names have been removed, who's funding all this? I asked you point blank. Protests have happened in India and we've questioned the funding of that. We have again and again questioned the funding which stands behind Rahul Gandhi every single day because leaders in his party have expressed...
We'll have to leave it there. We certainly, it is nobody's stand that the government does not need to come out clear. It is certainly whether it's the Home Affairs Ministry, the External Affairs Ministry, whichever ministry through which those funds have flowed, certainly we need to get a clarification as to what has happened, who is the recipient of that, and certainly, of course, it's for the government to take up that with the US government and get back on what really is the status and what really is the veracity in the charges that have been made. At this point of time, they are allegations, but can they be backed up with proof? That's a big question indeed. We'll have to leave it there. Charu Pragya, Lokesh Jindal, as well as Shekhar Iyer and Renu Mittal. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening.